So good evening, everyone. Like some of the other sort of visiting monks, we've come down to Abhayagiri once again to gather for the weekend of the Katina sort of ceremony. And Ajahn Yanako asked if I'd give a Dhamma reflection tonight. So in the interest of doing my part and helping out with this beautiful gathering, offer a few words, thoughts for people. Tea time, somebody sort of said, "What's that monk's name?" So I think I have to assume that at least one person doesn't know who I am. I'm Ajahn Sudanto, and I was ordained in Thailand in 1994 under Luang Por Sumedho, and he was the then abbot of Wat Bananachat, and came to Abhayagiri in 1998 for the Vasa, and spent most of 12 years here. And for the last 14 years plus, I've been up in my home state of Washington, living at the Pacific Hermitage, a branch monastery of Abhayagiri, at the invitation of a group from Portland Friends of the Dhamma, and asked by the Sangha here to kind of take on the effort to build a monastery up there. And I was surprised to realize I've lived there more than I've lived here now. I still think of myself as an Abhayagiri monk. Soon I'll be closing in on having lived in White Salmon longer than any place in my adult life. But it's always lovely to come down here for these gatherings, having spent so much time here and been here in the quote-unquote early years. And it always kind of brings up all kinds of joy. And it's an interesting kind of contemplation. Having been in the thick of things at one point in the community here, my favorite thing is to not know what's going on. Not know what the hell's going on. And everything still just works fine, and I feel like a ghost monk, sort of just kind of watching from afar. But I remember in the early years, like all the effort, all the planning, all the scheming and dreaming of having something more than one toilet. Oh, how nice it would be to have a Dhamma hall. And just to witness like what a beautiful kind of community it's become, both for the monks, but also for the lay community. And in some sense, like these occasions where we have visiting monks and lay supporters and friends and Dhamma kind of come and gather here once a year for these Katina festivities. It's a real beautiful celebration of all the hard work, all the practice, all the good Dhamma, and all the good Kamma that's been kind of practiced and created over the years. It's nice to see young monks kind of training and old monks getting old. New buildings and projects kind of springing up and old ones falling apart. And I don't know how it sort of came to me, but this memory sort of popped into my mind from a time when I was actually up in Vancouver visiting my family in Vancouver, Washington. And Luang Por Sumedho, whose sister and brother-in-law lived in my hometown, happened to be visiting at that time. So I got to spend a little bit of time with him up there. And his sister and brother-in-law asked me, "How are you getting back to Abhayagiri?" and invited me to join them because they were driving Luang Por down the coast to bring him down here to Abhayagiri for a visit. And this might have been like 2000 or something, 20-some years ago. And monks in those days, especially good force monks, didn't have iPhones. Or it was rare that you saw a monk with a camera. And somebody had given Luang Por Sumedho a disposable camera, this cheap disposable camera. And I'm not sure where he got it, but he was having fun with it. Having been the subject of many photographs, he was kind of turning it around on people. And at some sort of sly moment, he would like reach into his yam and pull his camera out and say, "Can I take your picture?" It always just elicited some fun and some smiles and laughs. And a little backstory, I sort of grew up sort of passionate about photography from my early teens and eventually studied photography and fine art before giving it up to become a monk. And so it was just really fun watching Luang Por with his camera. And we spent some time in Vancouver and then drove down the coast, and every once in a while he'd pull his camera out, and I was always kind of curious to see what was he taking pictures of. And then we got down here and spent some time here. I think maybe there was a retreat at Spirit Rock or something. I'm sure there was a retreat at Spirit Rock. And so I got to spend quite a bit of time with him while he was here on that visit. And then at some point the camera was full, the film was out, and he asked Ajahn if he could do something about that. And so we organized sending the camera into the drugstore or someplace in Ukiah to get the film processed. And I remember sort of being in the office of the old house when the town trip sort of came back with Luang Por Sumedho's pictures, and sitting there with Ajahn And Ajahn was kind of going through them. I was so curious to sort of see what was there. And he's like flipping through them, and it's just beautiful people smiling, blue sky, clouds, a flower, another person smiling. And I remember just being kind of impressed by it, especially like this dumpy picture of a cloud in a blue sky, poorly framed. There was nothing aesthetic about it, but it was so happy. I mean, it was like the whole thing of just seeing sort of like the world through the eyes of Luang Por Sumedho. And I remember just being kind of connecting with that idea of like, that's what this guy sees. Yeah. And it was really meaningful because I had kind of been with him and it wasn't exactly what I had seen. It was definitely not what I was seeing. I thought, it'd be so nice to be Luang Por Sumedho. Everybody just smiles at you. And when you have a spare moment, you look up and you see the blue sky and a dumpy little cloud. And that's all you need. And the heart sings. But I could definitely feel his joy. It wasn't just the joy he was receiving, but like his humor, his joy, and the lightness that he has as a person. And it's a memory that's kind of really stuck with me, and it comes up from time to time. Because for me, it kind of really connects more with sort of like, this is like the Kamma of his life. Like, I'm pretty sure Luang Por wasn't born into sort of all smiles and puppy dog tails and blue skies and clouds and little flowers. And I know from his life story that it wasn't always like that. He reports kind of being a rather grim young man at times. And, there's the one feeling which is like through personality view, sort of like, oh, if I could be like that, and the corresponding faith and doubt and wonder, But then later I really kind of connected with sort of like, this is the Kamma of a life well lived. This is the Kamma of somebody practicing goodness, practicing virtue, practicing Dhamma. It's not about personality or particular kind of character. And these days I've been reflecting a lot about Kamma, and in particular, just the promise of the Buddhist kind of teaching of Kamma, if you will, or the hope and the optimism imbued in the Buddhist kind of take on Kamma. So often, especially like in Buddhist cultures and Buddhist communities, like when Kamma comes up, it's usually sort of, what was I? What will I be? And oftentimes it's all still kind of framed by or tinged with thoughts of self. And in our moments of doubt and frustration, sometimes that's one place our mind goes. We wonder if we have the Kamma. I remember hearing it from Luang Por Sumedho as well as other sort of monks of his generation, that occasionally a dejected monk would sort of come up to Luang Por Cha and declare, Mot Kamma. Like, I don't have any more Kamma to continue being a monk. And apparently Ajahn Chah would say, so what? go make some fresh Kamma. And that's kind of like where the hope comes. Like, yeah, Kamma matters, but in another sense, it doesn't. Kamma is all about what's come before and the past. And part of the kind of optimism and hope that I sort of find in the Buddhist kind of teaching of Kamma, and especially as it relates to personality view, is that it's more about sort of making the choice and the freedom to sort of use this moment and this life to make sort of fresh choices to shape this moment and our experience of life and the worlds we'll inhabit kind of going forward. The past is a memory. There's nothing you can do about it. It's hardly worth thinking about. The most important thing is to meet the present moment and bring whatever faith and clarity you can to the present moment and discernment to make kind of wise choices. And in some sense, the only world you ever can live in is the one that is created from these choices that you make. Just like those pictures from the camera. And we spend a lot of time sometimes kind of forgetting that and thinking about the world. We're born sort of here now, all of us, into the human realm. It's not a hell realm. It's not a heavenly realm. It's a human realm. And one of the greatest attributes of the human realm is that it provides quite a measure of opportunity to make kind of fresh choices and make positive, bright, wholesome Kamma to shape our very experience and the worlds we'll live in. We can't go back and change Kamma in the past, but like the choices that we make, like in this moment and in the next moment and moving forward, shape how any of what has come before manifests and is experienced. And ultimately, that's a very hopeful sort of thought or idea. And where it kind of connects for me kind of as a practitioner is it really kind of couples into kind of the heart of the Eightfold Path, especially for the practitioner with right effort. So the whole essence of right effort is showing up for the present moment and using whatever discernment that we have to make choices. And this is kind of like the refrain in my mind these days. It's all about choices. And I keep sort of reminding and just encouraging myself to show up for the present moment, bring whatever discernment I can to sort of what is arising and make the best choices I can. So if something unskillful, unbeautiful, unpleasant's coming up, rather than get all tangled in it, try to make the choice to bring it to resolution as quickly as possible. Not to identify with it, not to lament that it's here, just quickly sort of use that sort of discernment to realize what has arisen and make some choices. It's kind of like this concept of beginning again. Like successful meditation isn't sort of never getting distracted in one sense. Successful meditation is always having the heart and the patience and the determination to sort of like begin again or come back to the breath and return to the object of our meditation and the object of our awareness. Kind of the foundation and the heart of changing our mind and changing our life in this element of right effort is showing up for the present moment, bringing discernment, and making choices. Where we can, when we recognize positive, wholesome, skillful sort of thoughts arising, we choose to care for them, we choose to deepen them, we choose to nurture them. And we proactively choose to do the things that we know that will lead to a waning of the unskillful ones, and an increase and a maturation and development of the positive ones. And this really is kind of the foundation of change, the foundation of practice, the foundation of mental change. You know, in the Eightfold Path, we have right effort, right mindfulness, and right samadhi. But the foundation really is right effort. And it's the one that's the most applicable in every single moment of your life. If you're ever confused what to do, which you will be again and again and again, just return to the present moment and try to make good choices. And the more we do that, the Buddha assures us it's not for waste. So every thought based on skillful and wholesome intentions has power, has merit. It's not for waste. Every word and all speech and every action is not for waste. And those are the things that build a better present and build a better future. And indeed create the world we live in. We spend too much time kind of conceiving of the world in worldly ways, as we like to say. The only world you really know is the world of this making. And that was kind of the lesson from Luang Por's camera. You know, I was right there with him and have the eye of a photographer, but that's not the world I was seeing. But the Buddhist kind of teaching and my faith tells me that the more we can kind of make those choices, the closer we'll be moving to sort of smiles and blue skies and frumpy clouds. So I'll offer that for your reflection tonight.